Good afternoon, and welcome to Attorney Commander Glapohkpa Chesson talk show. This afternoon, the topic of my class is about education. You know, as our country is today, we are in dire need of educated men and women, not only as leaders of our country, as people. We need to uplift our society. We need to enhance our livelihood. We need to change our way of living. And one of the most possible way of doing that is by attaining an education. So every day we talk about education, education, education. We talk about skills. We talk about talents. We talk about knowledge. All these things encompass what we call education. So let's spend some time this afternoon and talk about education. Because when some people come into a classroom or confront educational issues, it poses a challenge to them. Sometimes they see it, they look at the issue, they hear the problem, it's so overwhelming. They become intimidated by it. They become afraid. They become withdrawn. They don't want to handle it. It is all because they do not have the competence, the knowledge to handle these things. Because the first thing is, when you come into contact with issues and problems, what demonstrates your ability to handle these things is your composure. How you conform yourself to hearing the issue, to reviewing the circumstances around the issue. How do you handle yourself? You notice that when people come into contact with issues and problems or educational things that they have to solve, you watch their behavior. If they are calm, they listen to the issues, they listen to the problem, then they try to approach on how to solve it. You know they have some knowledge of what they're doing. They have some competence. But when you are posed with a question, you start yelling, oh, what kind of thing is that? Oh, no. Oh, I don't even know that. Oh. When people start behaving like that, right off the bat, you know that they do not have the competence or the educational level or qualification to handle that issue. So our sentiments, our behaviors give us away all the time when it comes to handling issues and problems that are overwhelming for us. And that is why it is so important for us as Liberians today to pursue education. It's not easy. Don't let me tell you that when you pursue education, all things will happen positively for you. No. It's difficult. Even when you're in school, you can be one of the smartest. You got to deal with teachers. There are teachers who will be jealous of you too when you're smart. They will not agree with you. They may not like you. So they will do things in the class to make you react bad, to make you say things, or to test your temper. All those things come with education. That's discipline. You got to know how to handle it. You got to know how to deal with your teachers. You got to know how to deal with people, your students, your fellow students. You don't want to be fighting. You don't want to get into trouble. All of that rests on your desire to learn. It rests on your desire to learn. Because nothing can happen to you. You cannot achieve anything under the sun, except you have that innate desire to achieve it. So it's the same thing with learning. You can come from the poorest house. You can be the dumbest person to other people. Excuse me. But if you have that innate desire to learn and pursue education, nothing, you listen to me, nothing can deter or stop you. Nothing. Even if you don't eat, even if you don't have a place to sleep, you will want to go to school to learn. I'm telling you from experience. When I was going to school in Liberia, there were many times me and my pa used to fuss. Me and my mom used to fuss. They used to put me out. But that didn't stop me from going to school. No. Ask my friends. Sometimes I used to go sleep in the nightclub because I had nowhere else to sleep. So the nightclub will open, I'll go in there like I want to drink, buy a Coke or something, and just lay my head on the table and sleep. And get up 4 or 5 in the morning, go where I gotta go, and get ready for school. That's the struggle. I've been in the struggle all my life. That's why people get jealous, because they see me in the street, they see me struggling, but yet I graduated from school. I graduated from law school. I achieved things. I worked for the Liberian government. I achieved things. It didn't matter how I got there. Once it was legal, it was fair, I wasn't committing no crime, I didn't care what people said. I didn't care sometimes what people did. I knew what I wanted. And it's the same attitude and behavior you got to have towards education. Now, if I was not that kind of way, if I was a petty person, worried about what my mom and pa were doing to me and being pissed off with them and wanting to hurt them and hurt myself and say, I ain't going to school, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that, who would it hurt? Who would have hurt me? That's why I'm telling you, to get an education, you cannot depend on your mom and pa to want you to get an education. No, you got to have that burning innate desire to want to get an education, and nothing will stop you. But if you're waiting for your mom and pa to appease them for you to get an education, or you think getting an education will let your parents open doors for you, or you want to get education because some other reason other than for yourself, you will fail. You will be haunted with failure. Because your education is for nobody else but yourself. When you pursue an education, it's to make your life better. Your and yours. You and your family, your children, your wife, your household, whoever you connected with. It opens doors for you. Because it is through you that these other people are fed. But you see, when our society is so greedy, we don't see the truth. It hurts all of us. And this is where Liberia is today. Our country is full of greedy people. So eye servants. Everybody wants to steal from somebody else. Nobody want to go out there and pursue something through their own sweat. And when our society is like this, even we got people there who want to pursue things on their own, who have the wherewithal to get up and do things on their own. And the majority of the people are low-minded and mediocre in their thinking. all of us can't get nowhere. We can't get nowhere because they will stifle the efforts of those that want to do something. So that's what we are today. And I know in my Liberian society right now, there are many young people who want to pursue an education. They want to pursue it. But I am only telling you that this is where you fail in getting your education. This is where you fail when you feel you don't have the resources or the help you need to get an education. This is where you fail. Where is that? You fail when you do not have that innate, burning desire to get an education. If you have that innate, burning desire to get an education, there is nothing under the sun that will stop you from pursuing an education. Even if you got to fall on your knees to beg people, you will do it. But God will open the way for you. Look at all the poor people that got educated today that had nothing. Some of them went down to their knees and begged people to help them. They didn't put pride in front of them. They didn't care about what other people would say. They had that innate, burning desire to learn. And nothing will stop you. Jesus Christ, or the God you believe in, will open the doors for you to find people to help you. And that's how it works. Because once you're a student, people will always come to help you because they know in their minds, one of these days you will be in a position to help them. So they will always help you. And take it from me. I live in this country. I went to school in Pittsburgh. I didn't have no mom and pa. I had to struggle. How you think I got by in Pittsburgh? I was living in the ghetto on the hill. You ever heard about Pittsburgh Hill? In the night, I had to lay down on the floor because they were shooting all around me. Boom, boom, boom. I had to lay on the floor. Every now and then you hear the police siren running through the ghetto. I was in the ghetto. But I was a student. And the people saw me coming out of my house every day with my book, getting in my car, going to my law school, coming back with my books, dressed up with my tie. I was in the ghetto. But they respected me for that. They respected me for that. Everybody on the street I live on used to call me Mr. Rodney. And in the night when they closed the street down to play cards, they used to close the whole street down and bring the table out to play cards. And everybody sitting there, they would yell out to me, Mr. Rodney, come out, come join us. But because I was a student, people respected that. They wanted their children to see that. I was an example for their children. So they treated me better. They treated me good. I never had a problem there. You know? And these are the things that education brings to you. Everything is not about money. You know? Everything is not about money. It's about how you live. And these are the things that education instills in you. It instills in you. So let's talk about education. What is education? We talk about education. What is it? It is the receiving or giving of systematic instruction you do in the classroom or in a school or university. That's education. So when you are educated, that means you have some form of systematic structural learning. You didn't just go and learn on your own. You didn't just do home training, because there's no way we can determine how home training is done, because you do it at home with your parents and things like that. But when you go to school, you are getting a systematic way of education that is uniform. It is governed by a system of governance. It is either through the church, through the school, through the government, or through some structure system that is put together to educate you. So they have a curriculum, a system of curriculum that you learn. You're not just jumping all over the place, learning science one day, learning French the next day, No, you have a system of learning or how you're going to learn. So that's education. And there are many forms of education because every education is not in a formal school or university setting. It could be through a seminar. You go to a seminar, these businesses that have seminar. Seminar is a form of structural education because they have a plan, they have a way of teaching, a curriculum. They have everything for the people that attend the seminar, and there's a purpose. There's a beginning and an end. So everything is structured. So education is also the act of teaching knowledge to others and the act of receiving knowledge from others. So we have the educational setting, which is the systemized school system, and we have the everyday kind of knowledge where we exchange knowledge with each other. We educate each other. That may not be in the structural school setting, but that is a form of education. Or how we exchange information and knowledge, how we can teach each other skills, how to survive in this community. All of that is important. Knowledge and education, they go hand in hand. And it's also, education is also the transmission of knowledge, skills, and character traits. Don't forget about character traits. Because whatever education you get, it doesn't only affect you on a personal level. It affects you on a political level, on a civic level. It also affects you on an economic level. It affects you on a social level too. How you grow up. All of that has to do with education. It affects us personally, in our cultural lives, in our social lives, in our business lives, in our money lives, everything. Education impacts us in all those ways. Education, the root of that word, comes from Latin, which means to lead out or to bring forth. Because when you're educating somebody, you are leading them to a better life, to knowledge, to skills, to wisdom. All these things are necessary for educated people. Because with the foundation as education, it is our personal characteristics that gave us the ability to attain wisdom, to overcome all the things in our lives that we need to overcome. So education is just the foundation for all the things that will come to us in our lives. It brings out the best in us. It draws out all that is within us and brings it forth. That's why education is important. Some people say, oh, education not necessary. I can live in the world. Yeah, yes, you can live in the world and exist. But if you want to be successful, if you want to know how to handle problems without so much difficulties and make good decisions and make good choices in life that will lead you to a better lifestyle, an easier form of living, education is a necessity. It will not give you everything you want in life, but it will give you the foundation to understanding and appreciating all things in life. When you got education, even if you got a high school education, if it's a good education, if you really have that desire to learn, you can get a high school education and be proficient enough to get a good job, to make a good living. Because your education is not limited. Yes, you may not have the ability or the money to pursue college degree and all of that, or you may not have the comfort to do that. Because to go to college and things, you got to have support. Some people don't got that kind of support. They got to go to work. They got to have their families. So if you're still educated and you got a high school diploma, but you have that desire to pursue education and learn, you don't have to be in a school setting. Any book you see, you take it and read it. You see something you're interested in, you read it, you learn about it. You got computer, you go online to YouTube. You want to learn about something, you go to those shows and see how it is done. Learn about it. But it takes patience. It takes time. It takes dedication. It takes devotion. That's the greatest thing. Devotion. You got to have that innate ability or desire to want to do what you want to do. If you don't have that innate desire, you will just do it, but it will be superficial, right on the top. You will not achieve too much. You will just do it to get by. But when it comes to the innate knowledge of trying to change your life and make it better, you will not have that knowledge. And that is what education brings to us. And this is why I try to tell my people, my Liberian people, strive to pursue education. That's the best kind of knowledge. It may seem difficult because we have our tribal dialects, we have our innate differences. But if you really want to learn, take your time and learn. Learn how to pronounce the words good. Learn how to understand your teachings good. Do your homework. You got time, sit down and read. Learn how to read. That's the greatest thing we got to do. When we learn to read, we learn to communicate with each other. We learn to get our thoughts across. We learn to talk to each other in friendly manner so we don't create fuss with each other. Sometimes the way we present things to each other bring fuss with each other. And education is a way to help solve all those kind of problems we have. So for us, the Liberian people, it is a necessity. It is a necessity for us to pursue an education. But for us to do that, we got to have that innate desire to want to learn. When you have that desire, nothing can stop you. If you don't have that desire, you will make all kinds of excuses not to get your education. Let's move on. Education is both getting knowledge and experience. It is also developing skills, habits, and attitudes. They didn't leave attitudes out. Education gave you attitudes. When you meet people and they're rude, they're disrespectful, they don't speak to you, they just yell at you and talk all kind of way. They don't say hello. They don't comment on any good thing. Those are people that have bad attitudes. The education not helping them. Because with education is good attitude. I told you that. Attitude. Your attitude is part of your education. When you are an educated person, you exhibit decent attitude. You know how to meet people. You know how to say excuse. You know how to say thank you. You know how to say please. You know when to say those things. Those are things we learn because when we know them, it makes our lives in society better. It makes people respect us and want to work with us and want to deal with us. But if we have bad attitude, no matter how educated we are, if our attitude is poor, if we have no understanding that our respect ends where other people's respect begin, we'll always fail. We'll always be the disdain in our society. That is why education and understanding the purpose of education is significant. Education helps individuals live meaningful lives in this world. Okay? It helps us develop wholesome personality, sound attitudes. That's wholesome personalities. It helps us develop wholesome personalities, rounded personalities, not one-sided. These are the things education brings to us. Okay? Not have education, pursuing education as far as we can pursue it. It helps us to get a better attitude, to get better characteristics, to get good traits in life. Okay? I told you everything we learn about education is not in a formal setting in the schoolroom. So in the dictionary, they got something called truth of education. What is the truth of education? It is not only about acquiring knowledge. It is about learning to adapt that knowledge with wisdom. That's true knowledge. You see some people go to get all kind of degrees, they get PhD and all kind of things. But when it comes to common sense, they don't have common sense. People on the street got common sense than them. Like you got to put your left foot shoe on before you put your right foot shoe on. You got to tie your shoestring to make sure you don't fall or slip. All those things are common sense. Because if you don't tie your shoestring, you will fall. You will trip over your shoestring. So it behooves you to tie your shoestring. Or somebody with common sense know that when they put on shoes with shoestring, they got to tie the shoestring. But if you don't have common sense, people with college degree, all that kind of thing, no common sense, they just put their shoes on and just walk about. Then when you look, they trip over their own thing and fall and knock their heads on the ground, and they wonder why they did that. But they didn't have common sense to know that when you put on your shoes, to keep you from falling, you got to tie the shoestrings. So these are the things knowledge help you with. If you're really knowledgeable, it gives you wisdom. Okay? You can't buy wisdom. Knowledge is a conglomeration of other people's thoughts, or other people's experiences, or other people's ideals, of other people's teachings. When you go to school, you learn all of that. You learn about Karl Marx. You learn about and fraud. You learn about and all the presidents of America, Obama. You learn about Trump. You learn about all these people. You learn about their philosophy, how they think, what their ideas are, what their motives are. You learn all of that. But those are not things you follow. You learn all of that to enhance your own knowledge and wisdom. Because when you learn all these doctrines and philosophies, we don't expect you to remember all of that. Okay? Like Einstein said, I can't remember the quote exactly, but Einstein said, education is when you forgot everything that you learned in high school and you're only living now on what you know. That's education. Okay? When you forgot everything you learned in high school and only the things that in your knowledge, in your mind, you remember is what you're living on. That's education. Because you can't go back to school to learn all those things. You can't go back to learn all those books. Whatever in your head is what you have. So that's education. And it builds all of that in us. So true education is not only about the book, it's about what you do with the book. Now you learn all this book. How can they help you? How can they help you solve problems? How can they help you change our society? How can they help you raise Liberia from poverty to sustainability? How can it help us? How can you teach us to do what you have learned to enhance our lives and our country? How? That's the true education. It's not only the knowledge, it's what you will do with the knowledge. That's wisdom. What you will do with the knowledge, how you apply the knowledge, how will the knowledge help to advance your life? That's your wisdom. Because you got all this education, you learn about all these people. Now, how will you put it together to develop your own idea for life and how you're going to live? because that's what we go to school for, to learn all those people's ideals, to develop our own ideas about life, how we're going to live. So if you don't have education, you don't have no knowledge above high school, you can't develop that kind of thinking. Only a few people can do it. Few people can have graduate from high school and be smart enough to develop a philosophy about their own lives. But if you don't go to college, you can't do it. Because college opens your mind to an array of opportunities, an array of educational information, an array of possibilities. So that's what you get when you pursue college education and beyond. So those are just some of the things education do for us. And education is not for nobody else, but for yourself. It is for yourself. Only you can benefit from your education. Only you and your family, your household, your children, your mom and pa can benefit from your education. Okay? The only way we can benefit from your education, if you serve in government, if you do invention and things to change society, and if you work in the interest of helping people. So those are some of the things we get with education. And that is true education. You cannot have education without knowing how to apply it. That's wisdom. So education and wisdom go hand in hand. When you get education, you strive for wisdom. You strive to learn how to use that education in an applicable way to better your life, to make you achieve success in life. Okay? So all I'm saying is you got to learn and adapt. Adapt means to change your ways, to take the way you have learned and enhance your standard of living, your lifestyle, your family life. You got to learn knowledge and adapt wisdom. So you got to learn. Okay. So what's the purpose of Liberian schools? Why do we have schools in Liberia? What is the purpose of our government forming schools? Our government forms schools to provide for the fullest possible development of each student for living morally, creatively, and productively in our democratic society. So you see the purpose of schools in Liberia? Let me go over it again. The purpose for having schools in Liberia is to provide for the fullest possible development of each student for living morally, creatively, and productively in our democratic society. So you see, education is both academic, it's not both, but it's academic, where you have intellectual learning. Education is political and civic, where we have to protect our democratic society by ensuring that we have the traits and characteristics to uphold our political society. It is also based on our socialization. Socialization is based on learning our culture, learning our society, our societal norms, our public policies. Those are our socialization process. How you grow up from childhood to adulthood. That's the socialization of each child in our society, how they develop. And finally, our economic growth. So education ensures that we are proficient academically, that we protect our political and civic systems of governance, that our socialization process of raising our children and teaching them our culture and societal norms and laws are intact and for their own economic growth. Education is a necessity. An educated person is an individual who has undertaken a lifelong journey of discovery and learning. Who is an educated person again? An individual who has undertaken a lifelong journey of discovery and learning. So we are always learning. We are always learning. If you are undertaking a lifelong journey of discovery, that means you will never stop learning. You are an adventurer. You are discovering every day ways of learning, ways of experiencing life, ways of changing life. Every time I travel to a foreign area, to a foreign community, I learn something new of how the people live that are different from us. That's the difference between us. Many of us eat the same kind of food, but how we prepare it makes it different. Those are the things that impact us as a society, as a community, as a people. So those are the things that we have to know. So remember the purposes of school: academic, intellectual, political and civic, socialization, to educate our young children about the culture and society, and economic. Those are the four basics of education. Wow, it is important that we learn. Okay? So, what are the characteristics of being educated? You know, we say, oh, he educated. But when you are educated, it brings out something in you. What does it bring out in you? Education in itself is a conscious effort that leads to behavioral changes in cognitive, effective, and promotor aspects. I think psycho promoter has to do with your psychic thinking and mobilization and all of that. So what does it have to do with education? Impacts all of that. It's a conscious effort. That's why I tell you, you got to have that desire. You got to put forth that conscious effort in your mind. It got to be in your mind, embedded in your heart, that you want to learn, that you want to pursue knowledge. If it's not in you, you will only dabble in the water and stop. But if it's in you, you pursue it. It's not easy. It's time consuming. It's tiring. But if you desire it, you will get it. Okay? So it's a conscious effort, being a conscious effort and leading to behavioral changes in your cognitive, your mental, effective, your physical, and psychopromotor, your psychic application. You see how education impacts us in every way? So, in reality, education involves planning, implementing, behavioral teaching for an effective learning outcome. So let me repeat this again. Education involves a planned, implemented, and evaluated teaching process for effective learning outcomes. So we need education. because it provides us a systematic way of living. We don't just jump into life, we plan it. We look at the possibilities. We look at the opportunities. We look at the possible outcomes. Then we implement it. And we don't just leave it there. After we implement it, we come back to evaluate its successes and its failures, to see where we went wrong and how we can better implement this process in the near future or in the future. That's education. That's why we always do things, then we come back to evaluate. If we got to do that same thing over and over and over each year, we got to evaluate the process of the first action. Was it successful? Did it yield the fruits that we want? Did it open the doors to the avenues that we wanted to pursue? All those things are essential before we can move on to the next stage of the same process. Okay? So what is the significance of education? Education helps people learn, one, how to find information. Two, how to read. Three, how to study effectively and become more knowledgeable. So those are the three things knowledge helps us with. It helps you to find information. If you want to know something, knowledge education can help you to find it because you know where to look. You will not be overwhelmed with the information. You will know how to categorize the information so it doesn't overwhelm you. You will know where to go to find the exact information you want to find so you don't be bamboozled by the information, by the amount of information you got. Okay? So it helps you find information. Two, knowledge helps you to read. If you can't read, you can't find nothing. You can't do nothing without help. That's the foundation to enhancing your life and your livelihood. You must learn how to read. If you can't read now, go back to school or find somebody who can teach you how to read and write. Those are the essentials to a foundation in good education. Okay? And lastly, you must know how to study effectively. When you go to study, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with all the material you got. Let me give you an example of something that happened to me in law school. When I was going to law school, in my senior year, I was working with the finance ministry as director of national identification. I didn't have time to be in school all the time. So the whole semester, I missed school. Most of the classes I missed. But whenever I did go to class, I did do two or three classes or 4 classes. But I missed most of the classes for the rest of the classes for that semester. But the 3 or 4 classes I went to, our teacher, Professor Glapohkpa, knew that most of us in senior class were working for the government or doing something to work for our livelihood. So he didn't bother us about coming to school. All he did when we went to class and he saw us in class, he made sure to tell us, make sure wherever you do, you study the criminal code. He was our criminal law professor. He reiterated that every time we went to class. He said, whatever you do, remember to study the code. He never told us that we're coming on the test or why we should study the code. He just told us to study the code. So when it was time for the test, man, all the cases we had done, I went and got all the cases together, all the books the cases were in. I had almost like 100 books. I couldn't read all the cases. I looked at the book and I said, God, I will read all the cases. I can't read all the cases before the test. It was the 2 days before the test I had to study. I was ready to memorize things. I wasn't ready to read all the books. Just then, something said in my head, remember the professor, he said, study the code. Study the code. That all the man kept saying. So I ran in the law library. I got the Liberian criminal code. It was like 10 pages long. All the code were listed one by one, one by one. Man, I sat down 2 days, I memorized that whole code, the whole 10 pages. And do you know, when I went for the exam, sitting in the exam room, wondering what the man were going to bring, how we're going to tackle those questions. When I saw the test, I wanted to yell. The test was the whole criminal code, word for word. What does this say? What does that say? Man, I almost yelled with joy. I almost jumped out of my seat because I knew every damn question. I was finished with the test in 5 minutes. The whole 5 minutes, it took me 1 minute to do the whole test. I went through the whole test because I memorized everything. I did everything. Then I was scared. I didn't want to turn in my paper. I said, let me go over the thing again to make sure. I went over it 3 times to make sure I didn't make a mistake. That wouldn't make me stay long. Then I got up. Even my friend, Farmer Stubberfield, was doing a test. My student, he said, finish. I said, yeah, my man, I finished. He said, what? He couldn't believe it. I got A minus straight, almost 100. But that is to just tell you, you got to know how to study, okay? And study effectively. When you're doing a course, you got to have an outline of the course. If you go to the classes, you got to listen to the teacher. Ask the teacher, you think that will come on the test? You think we should prepare for that more? You think this is something that we should prepare for more? Just look more into that you will be concerned about. Ask the teacher all the kind of questions. He will tell you, yes, study this more, because you never know when you're going to take tests. But he prepares you for all of that, okay? So knowledge also helps you develop critical thinking skills. Okay, well, you will learn to think critically. You're not learn how to think shadow. When you see things going on, you hear there's a bombing in Israel, you're not just say, oh, it's good for other people. No, you got to know the underlying problem. Why the bombing in Israel? What's the issue? Is it good to do doing that? Is it necessary? Why they doing that? What would that lead to? Would that lead to regional war? Would that lead to civil war? Would that lead to all these questions? You got to ask them. That's critical thinking. You're not only thinking about your rice and fufu soup and water. You're thinking critically, asking questions, serious questions. Okay? Education makes us make better decisions. All the choices we got. You got many choices in life. The greatest challenge you got is making the right choice. Education can help you do that, because you take all the situation in your life into consideration before you make your decision. You look at all the issues surrounding why you need to make the decision, why you need to take this choice. All of that is significant, okay? Education helps us to interact with others. And that's a big thing, because no man is an island. We need each other. When you got issues and problems and your family can't help you, you need to be able to reach out to other people. You guys problems in the community, you don't have people to help you, you need to reach out to other people. So that's why attitude, good character traits, all these things are essential for an educated person. It's demonstrative of the level of your education and your skills. Okay? So I told you what socialization means. It's learning the cultural values and norms, the skills to be provided to be productive in society. Okay? That's the socialization process for our young children. You start your socialization process from childhood to 18 years old or 21, where you learn the culture, you learn how to behave, you learn the social norms, you learn our public policy, what the public like and what the public doesn't like, what we take and what not take. Okay? It prepares you for a successful living. Education prepares you for successful living. It gives you the career you desire by meeting basic job qualifications and striving work ethic. Okay? And strong work ethic. Sorry, not striving. And strong work ethic. Okay? Education helps you with economic growth. I told you that. It helps stimulate economic growth. Okay? By higher learning. So, basically, that's my class in a nutshell. It's almost an hour. I've been talking for long. I thought it was going to be shorter. So that's education. But I just want to re-emphasize one thing before I end my class. No education under the sun is good education without a good attitude. Attitude, character, it's everything. It's 90% of life. Education is only 10%. Your attitude can carry you places where education can't carry you. But education is still necessary for your own aggrandizement, upliftment, or rise, for your own benefit, for your own ability to make good decisions and choices. That's why education is good. Some people, you see them, they got good attitude, they got good behavior and everything, but they make terrible choices. All their choices bring them down. Their choices destroy their lives. Their choices tear them apart. They can't make good choices. Okay? So attitude and education go hand in hand. Whenever you go into school and learning, make sure you got a good attitude and character to go hand in hand with your education. Or else your education is nothing. You are a failure. You are kaput. I thank you. I hope you pay attention to my educational class. I hope it was helpful to you. And I hope you will pursue what I taught you. Aluta. Continua. Have a good day. I'll talk to you, my people. Take care.